had a download the other day that what I'm creating is not a business. So when I go to do some quote unquote work today, I'm not looking at it as work. I'm not looking at, I'm going to sit down and do some work on my business and figure out how to bring money in, figure out how to get clients, create strategies to grow my audience. Those aren't the things that are going through my head. And definitely they do start to pop into my head because that's default, right? That's what we're conditioned to do, is to, as soon as we have a day or a block of time, we go to work and our brains associate going to work with these particular tasks. If you work for yourself or have a traditional business, then of course anything that you do in your day is going to want to be aligned with producing particular outcomes. But I want to do the opposite. And I think that not only do I want to do the opposite, I think it's really, really important for me to do the opposite and not look at anything that I'm doing or creating as a business. I don't want to just make money from this. There's no longevity in that. I really believe that if I approach this as another business that I've done before, it'll just topple over in such a short amount of time because my wants, needs, and desires aren't attached to building a business. There was a version of me a while ago that thought that building the business was what I wanted. The business was what I wanted. But that's my south node in the 10th house. This isn't business that I'm building. This isn't business that's going to give me satisfaction. I don't feel satisfied by going and doing things to strategize to make money or manipulate the work that I'm doing to get clients. That is not what I'm here to do. And I think that there's this kind of, as I'm talking, it feels like nuance. It feels like subtleties, but it's actually a really, really important distinction that needs to be made. When I have moments of clarity where I can tune into the future, it's not me being this big business person. It's not a business. It's an outlet. It's a channel. It's a funnel. It's a container to hold the way that I want to share. It's a container to hold my connection to other people, my connection for what's inside of me and how I want to share that, how I want to give what's inside of me to other people. And it requires a container, a space, but that's the lens through which I want to look at the template. And even the YouTube channel, this isn't about me being a content creator. This isn't about getting up and creating content for a business. The context of that is not what I'm doing. And I don't think that it's what we're doing in the new paradigm. What we're doing is finding ways to share our art, our passions, our fire, our gifts, our strengths, all of those things with other people. Finding ways to share them. And I guess you could argue that social media has always been that, but it's become distorted. And it's distorted through the focus being on the outcome and not the art. The focus being on the business, the exposure, how we're perceived by other people, the brand, all of the external. And as I'm saying this, I'm seeing the 10th house. I'm seeing the 10th house of public recognition. And the 10th house is work in its most simplistic form, but it's also, public recognition, career, like your mission or your legacy. It's how you're perceived from the public lens. And I think that that's also a really important distinction to make, right? Because this is where the focus have been. And I feel like I can speak to this I'm so connected to this way of thinking because my South Node is in the 10th house. That's my default. My default is what's the brand, what's the business structure, what's the model, how is it going to be perceived, how do I want to be portrayed in the world? And there's all of this kind of architecture that comes together it's like manipulate almost. That's a really strong word, but that's almost what it's like. It's like, what can I put together to make people think that this is who I am? What can I put together to make people believe that this is what I'm sharing? What's my hook? What's my message? Who's my target audience? And everything that we create content-wise when we're talking to a target audience is essentially manipulating their thinking. That's what marketing is. It's about pulling people in, using the right strategy, using the right words, the right branding, evoking an inner feeling or a sense of need or want from them, a desire within that they have to have the thing that you want, making them think that they need the thing that you want. And that's the 10th house. And what I'm starting to see at the moment is that everything we do is kind of funneled through. That's not the right word because the funnel goes in down, but like pushed through the 10th house. Everything's through the lens of the 10th house. What am I going to be known for? What's my branding going to be? How many followers am I going to have? What's my message out into the world? What's my legacy? What's the people that I want to draw in? It's like all of this external stuff. Everything's external. And I think that this is the main shift. This is one of the most significant shifts that we need to make when we're thinking about changing the paradigm in which business and work lives. And to stay on the through line of astrology here, we actually need to start focusing on the fourth line. And the fourth house. The fourth house in astrology is the bottom of the chart. It's home, it's family. It's often linked to ancestry, like the physical home and ancestry. It's often linked to, linked to your inner world and your emotions somewhat, but I think that gets overlooked. If you ask any astrologer off the top of their head what the fourth house is, they will say home and family. It's your home. And I actually think it's the missing piece of the puzzle. I actually think that so many businesses have failed. There's so much dissatisfaction, or we'll say unfulfillment. People are so unfulfilled. Even if you've gone out there and you've built a traditional 3D business, right? You've built a traditional 3D business in the online world. You've had so much success. You've got 100K months. You've got all the things that everybody, hundreds of thousands of followers, millions of followers maybe, all the things, the money coming in. You've built this business based on all of those external metrics. There's a lot of the people that have built that and are now closing the doors on those. They're shutting them down. I keep seeing post after post after post about people getting off social media. I can't do social media anymore. I opened up Threads the other day and I saw somebody had posted, is anyone doing business away from social media because I can't do this anymore, is what she wrote. And this is how I see the 10th house. This is how I see the old paradigm starting to crumble in such a significant way, because it's not sustainable. It's built on this external, fulfilling all of these external needs and desires, or external parameters of how things need to be done. And it's not sustainable because it's not sharing our true selves. But not only that, it's not built on solid foundations. And it's not built on solid foundations because we've overlooked entirely the 4th house of home. And I actually want to go even further and say that it's not even the 4th house. I think it's the IC. I think the IC in the chart is such a massively overlooked placement, and it's on your main axis. So in the astrological chart, you've got your MC, which is the top, the midpoint of the chart, the highest point in the chart. So that's your public expression. And then at the bottom of that is the IC. It's the bottom of your chart. It's the midnight point, the imamum coli. I think I've said that right. And it's one of the main, so the main axis of the chart, like the core axis, and it is that vertical line, and then the horizontal line is the AC and the DC. And the AC is your ascendant and then your descendant, which is the self and the self among others. So it's like your ascendant is yourself, and then the descendant is you in relationship with other people, your expression of yourself in relationship with other people. And I think that if I asked anybody what their IC is, 80% of people wouldn't know, right? Unless you're really versed in your own chart. A lot of people know what their MC is. In fact, like, I see so many posts about how to find your purpose, how to succeed in business, how to market your business, market yourself, build a personal brand, look to your MC. And I think this is part of the problem, because nobody knows what their IC is. And the IC is your foundations. It's you at your very core. And this isn't you at your ego core, like your sun sign or sun position. This is you at it's your inner world, yes, but I feel like that's more, no, it is. It's both this and your moon sign. But your moon sign is your emotional world, your emotional inner world. But the IC is the beginning of the 4th house, and the 4th house is ruled by Cancer, which also is ruled by the moon. So they are the same thing. So yes, it is your inner emotional world. But when I'm thinking about the axis, so your the signs on your axis are honestly so important. They're the foundation of who you are. They're the points. And what they actually do is they divide the chart, so the round pie with the 12 houses, they actually divide it into quadrants. So halves, which is through that midline, and then a crossways, which is the top half and the bottom half, but it becomes 4 quarters. And that division into quarters is really, really important. If you have all of your planets in one quadrant, that's a really big signifier of the area of life that's going to be in focus in this incarnation. If it's the top half or the bottom half, or if it's the left or if it's the right, it's such a strong, at a glance, it's such a useful tool. It's actually the first thing I do when I look at someone's chart. At a glance, I'll see if there's a conglomerate of planets, a congregation of planets in one particular area. And if it's in a particular quadrant, that tells me so much about this person and the themes that are going to come through their life. And the IC, the actual midnight point, and the sign that it lives in is the foundations of who you are. And it's not just like the 4th house of home, and it's not just like in psychological astrology, it's always referred to as your childhood, the expression of your childhood. That archetype is what you would have experienced in childhood. It's that, yes, and it's also you. It's actually a big part of your personality. I think that it's really important that everybody knows what your IC is and know that it's a huge part of who you are. Like in your actual person, not just an expression of your home or expression of your childhood or your parents or those themes, but actually you carry this archetype with you in such a significant way. And if the shadows of that archetype or the wounds are still playing out, that means you don't have a solid foundation to build upon. That means that at the bottom of your chart, there's shaky ground. And if you're trying to build a business through the expression of the top of your chart, you're just looking at the MC in the 10th house, and you're looking at that as wanting to be expressed and wanting to share and wanting to build big, quote unquote, big business. And yet you're doing that on shaky ground because you're not connected to the highest expression of your IC or your 4th house sign, the ruling sign of your 4th house. You will keep stumbling. It's built upon simply ego desires to be out in the world and be recognized, but it's not built upon solid foundations. And there's a couple of levels to this, right? So yes, everybody is out there wanting big business, wanting massive amounts of followers, social media followers, wanting big money. And even that in itself, the structure or the components of that level, that model of success, there's massive flaws there, right? Just in and of itself, because not many people are actually here for that kind of exposure. So there's that level. But then there's also the level where you can tune into your MC and it can actually see the energy of the business that you are here to create. And speaking for myself with a Scorpio MC, the Scorpio is a very untraditional sign, right? Compared to if you had, say, Capricorn on your MC or in your 10th house. Scorpio, as an MC in Scorpio, my exposure, what I'm known for, the energy that I put out into the world, which is also that MC line, on the public stage is very transformational. It's changeable. It doesn't stay the same. I've had so many iterations of me in my career and the things that I want to chase, but they're all rooted. And I only discovered this once I discovered my chart on a deeper level or understood my chart on a deeper level. They're all rooted in this kind of inner depth and alchemy and transformation. And there's this like continual death and rebirth. And this kind of psychological lens and this personal development lens. And then there's this really intuitive, deep lens. And these are all the themes of Scorpio, right? And these have played out through every iteration of my career that I can see the through line now. So yes, there's this really important level where if we step down from this model of success that's everybody has to be big on social media to be successful, you have to be a coach, you have to have a big business, blah, blah, blah. If we step down from that, the next level that is more in line with your blueprint is definitely building something based upon the archetype of your MC. What I am inviting you to do here is step down another level and meet yourself at the level of your IC. And the level of your IC is who you are at your core, what you need to feel safe, what you need to be in deep connection with the self, with the inner world of you. This is about inner world and outer world in the most simple way I can describe it. 10th house MC, we're talking about outer world, public facing. 4th house IC, we're talking about the internal makeup of who you are. If you're disconnected from that, or you're wounded in that archetype, in that expression, how can you possibly go out and build? Because everything in astrology is opposing forces. And being in the opposition, balancing each other out. It's about finding balance. And so every time we look at our chart, there's magic and there's healing balm in the opposing archetype. I'm an Aquarian sun, so I can look to Leo, the opposing sign of Leo, to balance out when I'm too far in the expression of Aquarius and things are playing out that's like, whoa, that's so Aquarius. If I need to find balance, I need to connect to Leo. So I could be, as an example of that, in Aquarius, I could be really disconnected. I could be really in myself. I could be quite aloof, detached, unemotional. I can cut people off very easily. I can be in my head. I can be in other realms completely. But if I need to come back down to earth, so Aquarius is ruled by air, the opposing sign of air is always fire. I need some fire. I need some Leo. I need some heart connection. I need some joy, some laughter, some fun, some creativity, some connection, heart connection. And that's how the balance works. And so if let's just stay on this example of these archetypes, if you have an Aquarian MC, you could be right out there doing it solo by yourself and just really in your head and in your genius almost. Like if somebody with Aquarian MC has genius, natural genius to bring to the world. But if that's playing out on a kind of mad hatter Einstein kind of level, it's like, come back to your IC. The core of who you are is heart. People want to know your heart. Yes, you've got great ideas, but how are you sharing that and showing that with connection and heart? And also leadership. How you know, because an Aquarian MC could be out there and they could be keeping their ideas all to themselves, which is a very Aquarian trait. It's like, nah, this is too good. I'm not sharing it with anybody. And they can be like the lone wolf. But if you balance that out, you come back, somebody with an IC in Leo needs connection and love and joy and creativity and all of that. It's like people need you to lead and share and be in the spotlight and not hide it all the way to yourself. And so you can see there's this polarity, but this balance. And the same goes if you're too in the lower expressions of Leo, where you might be in ego, and you need the Aquarian humanitarian aspect, the collective aspect to bring you out of yourself and share with the collective for the greater good of everybody else and not just you. And that's it in reverse. And I'm not going to go through every access. This information is easily accessed everywhere. Books, podcasts, ChatGPT, whatever it is. But I've just been sitting with my IC for the last few weeks, and I have just realized how important, like so important that it is that we're connected to ourselves through that archetype. So mine's in Taurus because that's the opposing sign of Scorpio. Scorpio being a water sign. It's a fixed axis, but Scorpio is, like I said, I need to constantly change. I need to change myself. I need to change my business. I need to change my brand. And that's a lot of the reason why nothing has stuck. Nothing sticks. I feel like I'm going through this reimagination of everything every 6 months or every 12 months. And it's like, one day Tara's a kinesiologist, and then when she was younger, she was a hairdresser, and then she was a brand manager in marketing, and then she was a podcaster, and then she was a podcast manager, and now she's an astrologer. And it's like, how does that even make sense? And there's a lot of other markers in my chart as to why I'm interested in a lot of things and a lot of topics. But on the basic level, it's this desire for transformation and discovering myself through these different modalities or career trajectories. But my Taurus IC is really asking me about what makes me safe. And it's asking me about putting down roots and having a deep need and sense for beauty and safety and security and self-worth. It's very Venusian. Taurus being ruled by, is the Earth Venus, ruled by Venus, and it's an Earth sign. And I've just been sitting with even my home, so my internal world, but also my physical home, and how Taurus is very much a massive part. My home, it's very important that it feels a certain way. It's very important that I have windows open and incense burning, and I have linen curtains that make me, and warm tones that make me feel something in my home. Things to look at, and no clutter, and clean lines, and a lot of these things can actually support this very changeable external that I project. It's like I can have as many iterations on the external as I need, but my home is my safety net. And I think that's true for all of us on some level, but particularly if you have an earth sign in your IC, there's going to be this need for this grounded energy in your home. And if you have an earth sign, any of the earth signs in your IC, Capricorn, Virgo, Taurus, it means you have a water MC. And so for you to go out there and create your magic in the world, your intuitive, emotional, changeable, fluid, incredible feminine magic out into the world with Pisces, Scorpio, or Cancer, you will need to have grounded foundations, literally. You will need structure within your internal self. You will need to feel a sense of groundedness, of orderliness. You know, if it's Capricorn, there might actually need to be structure, like Saturnian structure, for you to follow. Or in my case, Venus, there needs to be like tangible things that I can smell and taste and touch. And I need to feel a sense of safety, and sense of safety in my body, my self-worth, my connection to my physical body is so important. And it's taken me a long time to cultivate that connection on a really deep level. And I've done a lot of work, a lot of somatic work, a lot of healing work to do that. And then in the sense of Virgo, it's like, again, it's the body. There needs to be this sense of connection and this orderly, grounded, bodily, health motivated structure for you. If there's a lot of, particularly in Virgo, if there's a lot of self-talk and self-sabotage and negative self-talk, Virgo can be very hard on oneself. And if you're very hard on yourself, how are you going to go out there and share your Piscean magic? There's so much magic for somebody with an MC in Pisces, right? And again, if you flip that, if you've got a water sign in your IC, or you would have an earth sign on your MC, and if you have a water at your core, then you need to tend to your emotions. You need for them to be felt. You need for them to be expressed. You need to be connected to your intuitive nature, because a lot of what's going to come through will be intuitive for you. And then your expression in the world is very earthly. It's got to be tangible. It's got to be something that you can grasp onto and not too lofty. If it's too lofty and intuitive and stuck in the dream realms, then it's not going to be who you are. And then the flip, if there's a fire in your IC, there needs to be joy and creativity and love and movement and action at your core, in your home, in your internal world, so that you can be expressed in your ideas, in your communication and connection with the outer world, which is an air sign MC. There's genius there. It's like you're here to invent things and share things and communicate and connect with people through air. And if you flip that, you will have an air sign on your IC and a fire sign on your MC. And if you have an air sign on your IC, you need internal connection to your ideas. You need to journal. You need to speak them out, send yourself voice notes, create things, design things, chat with people around you, chat with yourself, honor your intelligence. You're deeply intelligent. and your connection and your communication. You need to be in community, in communication with people in order to be on the stage in leadership as a fire sign MC. You're here to lead and be expressed and be seen and be sharing creatively. And like, that's just kind of a little overview to give you like a feel for how this plays out. My need to not have my business feel like business comes from a lot of things. What I was speaking to before about the hierarchy of how we're all creating, and the top of that hierarchy at the moment, the core of it is that we're all striving for this external version of success that none of us really want, right? Not all of us want anyway. Yes, we say we want money and we say we want big business and big audiences and big communities and we want to be on social media every day, but actually do you? But actually do you? Do you want to have to show up and create reels twice a day? Do you want to have big business and manage and have that kind of responsibility? Or is it that you just want to be noticed and you just want to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Appreciated and acknowledged for your work, for your art, for your gifts, and yes, be paid for it, but not in a way that requires you to hold this architecture of a massive business in the traditional sense. And I think this is the shift that I'm making. And the other two rungs of the hierarchy still hold true. So still go to your MC and still go to your IC. And we need to flip that. So we need to go to our IC first. Before we even talk about our expression in the outer world, we need to tend to our inner world, our IC. But at the very top of this hierarchy, what I see is shifting in the new paradigm is that external projection of what success is. And I think it's changing to not wanting it to look like business at all. And again, I'll say, yes, you want money. Yes, you want to be recognized for your gifts. Yes, you want to share your art. Yes, you want to be creative. You want all of those things, but it doesn't have to be in that rigid, external big business structure. There is another way. And the other way is actually, I believe, what I'm doing now is burning down the desire for business at all. A little while ago, I had something drop in that was a realization for me that one of my biggest patterns, and something I actually was earlier this year, I had this realization drop in that I had to drop my connection to being an entrepreneur. I had this real ego want and need and desire to be recognized as a business owner and to be recognized as, oh, she's started her own business. Wow. Like, she's done it. She's successful because she's gone out and started her own business. And this is my South Node in the 10th house playing out. It's like I had this ego want to just have a business. And at some points, it didn't even matter what business it was. I just wanted to be successful. And when I'm saying that out loud now, I realize how misaligned that is for me. But I think on some level, we can all drop this entrepreneurial ego that we have, this business owner ego level of identity. We can need to put it down and take off that cloak so that we can actually be recognized for our art and our gifts, because I can guarantee you that your art and your gifts don't fit into that traditional business model. You're here to do it differently. We're all here to be expressed in a different way, and it's completely different from that model. And I feel like I want to say this a million times in a million different ways because I could, but I hope it's landing in the way that I'm saying it today, which is, if you focus on your internal world, your IC point, your inner world, your core, and acknowledge that part of you and start to move from that part of you, you will be able to be more expressed in your MC. you will be able to create something that gets you public recognition, gets you money, gets you paid for who you are at your core much, much, much faster than if you keep just striving for this external model of success, this external validation or external metrics that we're all striving for. There's a key here to a door that's been locked, and the key is understanding your IC. And when we open that door to our internal world, and then we start producing from the deep wells of who you actually are and what you actually want. Because my Taurus IC doesn't want to be like out changing all the time and building business and being seen. It wants to be nurtured and loved and in my body and in a beautiful home and resting and eating beautiful, healthy food. And there's this huge part of me that wants safety and security, while my MC wants to go out there and just transform every other day. And by honoring that part of me, I'm creating a business that allows me so much freedom in my day to do and nurture all those parts of me, so that when I go out and share, it's coming from a place that's rock solid. And dropping the entrepreneurial ego, dropping the desire, the purely egoic desire for big business, is the second step. So the first step is connecting to your IC. And the second step is just let go of the need to have a big business. It can still be part of your desire list to have money and have recognition and be on a stage if that's what you truly want, and have a big community if that's what you truly want. I still do want a massive community of people coming together to do this work. But it's not because I want to be, the difference is it's not through me being an influencer on Instagram. There's a huge difference there. And I think the crux of what I'm trying to say is that we've all been looking through the 10th house for success. But I actually think we've been looking in the wrong spot. We've all been looking over here at the noise and the bells and the whistles and the big follow accounts and the likes and the views. And we've all been misguided by these sparkly, shiny things through the MC. We've all been looking for external success through the lens of the MC, and we've been looking in the wrong spot. We've been looking externally. What we actually need to do is look internally. Everything that you need is actually on the inside. It's through knowing yourself better. It's through understanding yourself and your actual wants, needs and desires, and starting to express that from nurturing who you actually are through your IC and building a solid foundation. And this doesn't have to be years of work. This is just a perspective shift. And I want to invite you into shifting that perspective right now. Like, I don't need a big business to have recognition. I don't need a big business to recognize myself. I don't need a huge follow account to be worthy of sharing my gifts in the world. The misguidedness, it's like nobody's looking inside. Everybody's looking outside. Your IC is who you are at your core, and you're never going to be able to create. It will be difficult to be expressed in a big way and for you to be able to hold it if you haven't acknowledged your inner world. If you haven't acknowledged who you are at your core and your needs of your core, of your IC, you'll keep on the hamster wheel of focusing on outcomes and focusing on the external measures of success and not being able to hold what you think you're building until you recognize who you are at your core. And I believe that the way we do that is unlocked through the IC. So let's flip the script here. Go and see what your I see is. Go and see if it's a fire, if it's a water, or if it's an air, or if it's an earth. And just start there. Just start there at the most basic sense and then build upon it. Just start to acknowledge her or him or they. Start to acknowledge the archetype that sits at the bottom of your chart. And know that when you're tending to that, whatever's expressed externally from there will have so much more reach and impact and influence than you could have ever had if you just keep your focus on the external and not tending to the internal.